Welcome back to some breaking news. We want to a fire that is burning just west of Loveland, and as we are watching right now from Sky 9, we are seeing stunning pictures. This shows you the size and scope of what firefighters up in Larimer County are dealing with. The latest estimate on the size of this fire came in from the U.S. Forest Service, and they had flown over it themselves. And they had taken an earlier projection of nearly 800 acres down to 247. But we're also seeing a lot of activity and a lot of movement, and that's what has people concerned, and that is why there are evacuations. This fire is burning near Storm Mountain, and it's just west of Loveland. This is the area we're talking about here, and obviously many people in northern Colorado are seeing that footprint, that signature of what is called the Alexander Mountain Fire. It started burning before noon, and they are continuing to try to battle it. But as you can see, as hot and dry as things have been, it is a very difficult fire just to get a scope on right now to understand the size of it and then figure out the best way to attack it. Highway 34 near there has been shut down. This is from 25 looking up in that direction. Our friend Steve Steger is out there now, and he's been getting a look at what is taking place on the ground as firefighters and first responders start to manage people and assets. And Steve, what can you tell us from where you are?
Tom, let me set the scene for you. We are on Highway 34 at County Road 29. This is where the road closure starts. There's a CSP trooper here and some CDOT employees who are kind of directing traffic here. We've seen traffic move down Highway 34, a lot of horse trailers, a lot of things that you could tell people are kind of getting their stuff and getting out as quickly as possible. And we've, from our vantage point here at the corner, watched that smoke burn from what looked like white smoke for a long period of time to a plume of darker smoke as you see some of the planes making airdrops over that fire right now. I want to bring in Jerry Barger. He has been here with his camera in hand trying to get a look at the shot. You want to get the retardant drop, but what have you seen since you've been here? You've been here about 20 minutes before we got here.
Well, it started out, it was blowing east, and then it kind of blew to the south. It's gotten wider since I've been here, and that black cloud is disturbing.
Yeah, it really is, because
you think there's a house on fire or something.
It was shrouded back kind of behind the white for a long time, and you saw this plume of black smoke in the air. You were talking about the law enforcement agencies that you've seen rolling in here. Who have you seen?
Boulder, Larimer, Wyoming, Loveland, Fort Collins, just everybody.
Just about everybody, all moving pretty quickly, too.
Yeah, oh yeah, heading up the canyon.
How long have you lived up here?
I've lived in the area for about 20 years.
Seen anything like this ever?
Oh yeah. Yeah, the other fires that came down. Cameron Peak you could see pretty close from here. And then the one that was in Estes, that was pretty big. Yeah. But I haven't seen it where I live. I live out west of Berthoud, so I haven't seen anything there yet, but it's tinderbox.
Hey, we were talking about these conditions. Even on the ground here, it's absolutely dry. You haven't gotten much rain up here in a while.
Not in a long time. And where we live in Berthoud, we're kind of in the rain shadow of Longs and Meeker, so we typically don't get the rain. It goes north and south and comes together east of us.
Yeah. Well, you've got the long lens. Keep us posted if you see another
I see a drop, plane. I'll send it to you.
Well, plane's moving in. Jerry, thank you so much. So that's the scene here from the roadblock. And again, we've been watching as many different aircraft are attacking this fire right now. I saw the plane kind of come through and make that red retardant drop on top of the fire, but then we've seen helicopters making laps back and forth. I think there's a reservoir over this way where they're filling up and trying to get something on that fire. Jerry was telling me earlier, it's pretty kind of rugged terrain up where this fire is, so you imagine it's tough to get personnel up there to fight a fire like this, Tom. We'll keep an eye on it here from the corner of Highway 34 and County Road 29. To try to get out from some of those mandatory evacuations.
All right, Steve, of course, we'll be checking back with you on what's a very serious situation up there west of Loveland. Highway 34 closed in that area because of the fire. But let's get over to Corey Reppenhagen for a look at part of the equation that's gone into this fire. And Corey, Jerry was just saying, Jerry Barger from Berthoud was saying they just haven't had any rain up there in a long time. There's a lot of fuel.
Yeah, and that's a big problem with this. The climate has not been friendly. Not a lot of moisture has fallen in that area. Temperatures have been very hot, hotter than usual, and we've had a lot of direct sunlight. Over the last 3 months, this has been kind of an accumulating. The good news is kind of in the weather of the day. You saw that shot there that Steve Steger was providing, also the helicopter shots, and you could see those smoke plumes going straight up in the air. For the most part, they were slightly tilted. But that is an indication that the atmosphere, as far as the winds are concerned, are being somewhat friendly to those firefighters. When the winds really start to gust, like we saw in 2020, those smoke plumes are tilted sideways, and that's when we know there's big trouble underneath there. But here's a satellite or the radar picture right here. We put a filter on it so that you can see the finest particles. And this right here is the smoke plume that's coming from this fire. The origin point is right here. And at times we see this radar picture turn yellow in this area. This is just to the west of Loveland, just to the south of Masonville. So this would be at the southeast perimeter of where the 2020 Cameron Peak burn scar is located, just maybe outside of that zone. But we saw those winds kicking up. We don't have a measurement. We don't have really weather stations right in that fire, but in the area of Loveland and up into the foothills, they're picking up, those weather stations are picking up wind gusts in the 20 to 25 mile per hour range. So that's pretty significant, but nothing like the 70 to 80 mile per hour winds that we saw during the 2020 fire, which would certainly be bad. Now, where is the winds headed? Now, here's the forecast model going forward here, and we'll see the winds generally kick up into the 20 to 30 mile per hour range over the next 15, 16 hours as we go through the day here. And we heard the eyewitness say that the smoke plume was blowing to the east and then started moving to the south. And one of the reasons for that is the winds are predominantly out of the west here, blowing straight to the east. But in the afternoon, this is later on tomorrow, but in the afternoon, this air starts to ride upslope, and you get a convergence right here along the foothills. And that's why the smoke plume started going to the east and then down to the south. But in general, that smoke is kind of floating over the Front Range area. Here's the forecast model for smoke as far as this morning was concerned before that fire started. But we already have smoke in the air from the west here. This high pressure system just to our southeast here, spinning clockwise here, that's pulling all of this smoke over the state of Colorado. We have some of that smoke over the next 24 to 36 hours will be right here in the Denver metro area. And now we'll add the smoke on top of that. So to wrap up, I'd say the winds are being somewhat friendly in the 20 mile per hour range for these firefighters. The humidity, however, is in the teens in that area, and of course the temperature, those direct sunlight, is not being great. But really, the problem with this fire is certainly the climate over the last 3 months, really. No rain and just a lot of high heat.
Corey, thanks. Those live pictures from Sky 9 giving you quite a look at that giant smoke plume. And again, a live picture now looking at it to the west of Loveland, and you can see that plume. It is a thick, dark plume of smoke that is rising still. But again, as Corey was alluding to, mostly rising and not necessarily drifting too fast as though the winds were feeding and fueling that fire. But this live picture from Sky 9 certainly tells a scary tale of what is playing out now west of Loveland. Again, this fire has been burning for over 2 hours now. Some viewers have been sending in some pictures, their views. We were just talking, Steve was, with Jerry Barger from Berthoud, but other people who have sent in some photographs as well give us a pretty good idea of what they've been seeing throughout the day. This picture here from Mark Bergman, obviously with flame there, and then you can see the smoke coming over the ridge. Those pictures sent in by Trenton, and then more pictures where you can see the flame. There's video of the flames burning and the smoke continuing to fill the air. And as we've seen with the size of this plume that is rising from this fire, the Alexander Mountain fire, This is visible from a long way away. People are seeing this throughout the Front Range, up and down, because this has climbed into what was a beautiful blue sky day for most people before this smoke started to fill in. Sky 9 continues to work over the area and is now providing pictures where we can see some of the fire activity in the darkest of the smoke that is in there. But it is of great concern not only where the smoke and fire is, but where it's headed as well. And Corey had a look at that as far as the forecast. We also do know about mandatory evacuations as well that have been made. So, and you could certainly see why. This is something they don't have any control of right now and are hoping to get control of it soon. So this is one of the, these are some of the places where you can evacuate to. Namaqua Elementary School is one. The Estes Park Events Complex is another. And animals, of course, welcome as well at the Arena Circle there. So this is a very, very active situation. Steve Steger again now at that road closure there at Highway 34 with more. Steve?
Watching for them to come down.
I want to get in touch with Carolyn Wamsley here, who you were on the phone feverishly trying to get to your dad who's in this area. What was he telling you?
He said he didn't have time to talk.
And how long ago was that?
2 hours ago.
And you said, Dad, you need to get out.
He's under mandatory evacuation and he was still at the house.
You keep bugging him.
Yep, so I had to have the sheriff call him.
I was going to say, you walked over to the Colorado State Patrol trooper here and said, here, you take the phone.
All right, I needed a higher authority apparently.
How old is your dad?
84.
Is he a little stubborn, or is he's just trying to get everything?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you first got over here and you saw that plume of smoke, what were you thinking?
It's pretty big. It looked like it was almost shifting west, but the flags were flying east, so it's just really hard to tell what direction it's going to go.
All right, so I think the State Patrol trooper said 15 minutes is his maximum?
Dad should be down in 15 minutes.
If he's watching 9 News, do you want to tell him?
15 minutes, you're on the clock, Dad.
You're on the clock, Dad. Oh, somebody was yelling, don't move. Making sure everything's all right. You know, what's interesting, Tom, as we've been watching it, I'll keep Caroline over here. As we've been watching it, we've seen some, like, Larimer Sheriff's Office deputies and some Boulder deputies make their way through at a pretty quick clip. And often in situations like this, that's the evacuation order that you get, is you'll have the sheriff come and knock on your door. What was his evacuation notice, by the way?
The wind is blowing west, right?
It is.
Yeah. So you just never know where fire's going to go.
It's been shifting quite a bit since we've been here.
Yeah.
What kind of notice did your dad get at the door? Was it just a knock from a sheriff's deputy?
Oh, no, no co-alerts.
Okay.
He should have probably got a phone call and a text, but you don't get cell service up there all the time, so a phone call.
Well, okay, he's on the clock, so we'll see if he makes it out in 15 minutes. He's on the clock, and hopefully we can bring that to you on 9 News. But the good news is we do see a lot of people moving around and a lot of people getting out as some of those mandatory evacuations are kicking in. Tom, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Steve, best of luck to Carolyn and her dad. Again, these are the live pictures that are coming in from Sky 9, and you can see the size and scope of what they are dealing with there west of Loveland today. The Alexander Mountain Fire, considered to be some 247 acres in size. That would appear to be an estimate that is going to grow as they continue to get a better look at it. They were able to fly over it. The Forest Service came up with that estimate. You can still see the active flames there on the edges of the fire. And it's just a matter now of getting a good look at it, but also from the air fighting it. We've been able to see some of the planes trying to drop retardant and or water down on the fire. Of course, we'll continue to keep an eye on that. So again, this is the Loveland cam, and you can see just to the left what looks like a beautiful summer day, blue skies in Colorado, but to the right, the damage is being done right now by that Alexander Mountain Fire. So there's a good look at it from there. So we'll continue to keep an eye on things here. CDOT showing us this view. This is I-25 looking up towards US 34 in Loveland. Again, a similar story. Otherwise, just a beautiful late July day in Colorado, except for the fire that has now been started, burning maybe 2.5 hours now, maybe a little bit more. And we'll continue to follow this. Keep an eye on this situation, because if there's one thing we know is the these animate in so many different ways, and they're very hard to predict. Corey was talking about the winds being gentle at this point, and Corey, that's probably the only real good news at this point, as hot and dry as it's been, the fact that the winds are at least laying down that plume, mostly vertical.
Yeah, exactly. That is a very big thing to kind of point out, because remember those fires back in 2020, those smoke plumes tilted to the side almost at times. These plumes are kind of going upward, but it's interesting to hear the eyewitness reports that Steve Steger has managed to gather out there, talking about the wind shifting, not knowing where this fire is going to go. And one of the reasons I can kind of explain that for you here, using this wind forecast here kind of near the current time frame. Generally, all the winds are coming straight out of the west, but we have some interesting terrain and kind of almost like microclimate features here on the Front Range. And when the mountains start to heat up differently than the plains, as we get really hot down here, we start to get the winds to start drifting towards the slope. So that's this is a general thing that happens almost every afternoon in the summer. We get westerly winds, and then they start to counter. So you can see these wind barbs here coming out almost at the same strength as they are coming from the west, and they're kind of meeting right where that fire is here in Larimer County. Just these are the foothills here, so it's coming right about in here, just to the west of Loveland and to the south of Masonville. And so that's why they're getting these reports of shifting winds. And so it's hard to figure out what that means for firefighters. We know that these numbers, 18, 22, 15, these are not horrible for firefighters. That means that they'll be able to take almost a frontal, more aggressive approach to this. And that also means that they'll be able to use all the aviation assets that they need to in this type of wind scenario. Once they start getting up there pretty high, all you can do is get out of the way, and sometimes you can't even use some of those aviation assets. So these numbers here that I'm seeing are not awful. And as we put the computer forecast model into motion here, it's going to generally stay that way. We could see a little bit of a pickup here, a little increase in some of the wind gusts later on tonight and to tomorrow morning. But again, 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts is not it's not great. Also, not given the point that it's shifting a little bit, that's not great. But the winds are at least being somewhat favorable. And then later on tomorrow afternoon, we get an even more favorable situation here. What's not favorable is the current temperature and humidity. So here's the current temperatures out here along the Front Range here. You can see Loveland at 89, Estes Park at 83. Keep in mind that this is all full sunshine, so direct sunlight hitting the earth. So that is one of the factors that contributes into the fire weather scenario. And I can tell you that in Loveland, the humidity right now is 12%. So that is against the firefighters. That means the fire will be able to spread quickly. The moisture will not be able to hold into any of the vegetation that's out there. So winds, not awful. Heat and humidity, not great. And the climate over the last 3 months, awful. So that's one of the things that's really leading up to this. Very below average precipitation in Larimer County, especially along the foothills there that normally get a little bit more precipitation this time of year. And we've just had those high temperatures with very few clouds. So the sunlight has been just draining, just evaporating all of the moisture off of the planet. And that is the scenario that they have working against us. So at least, Tom, for now, the winds are at least nothing like we've seen in some of those more dramatic historical fires that made those really long runs that the firefighters just had no chance of getting out in front of.
And we certainly know that the earlier you can have an impact in fighting a fire, you can really shorten the severity of it and maybe get out in front of it a bit. If they can have those calm winds for a while, that'd be good. But you know, you talk about weather impact, that's there today with those temperatures, that humidity. I want to let you know about the mandatory evacuation area in red up there in the upper left part. That's Storm Mountain. They've expanded it a little further to the south down to Pole Hill. The upper right of the red there is the Bobcat Ridge area. And then you see the yellow areas off into the east side. Those are voluntary evacuation areas. That's over by the Mariana Butte Golf Course. So it's a pretty big swath right now, and hopefully won't be growing too much more. But between road closures and mandatory and voluntary evacuations, there's a lot happening. If you have to evacuate, you don't necessarily have somewhere to go. You can go to Namaqua Elementary School. You can go to the Estes Park Events Complex and Animals at 5290. We want to take a look at Sky 9 because we are starting to see some aircraft there in the bottom center of your screen, starting to a helicopter passing through. And obviously one of the things they're trying to do is manage any spread of this fire. This smoke you can see is not rising straight. This does have a drift. So everything they can do in the early stages of this fire to try to contain or even to some extent steer it, maybe even back on itself. That's what they're trying to do right now. But again, Steve Stager's been reporting about airplanes and helicopters both already working this scene, trying to do what they can, along with crews that are just arriving on the ground, trying to get there and get on top of this fire. So we know the roads are going to be busy in that area. Again, you can see here from this camera, looking up towards Loveland from I-25 from CDOT. That's a pretty imposing sight there off on the horizon. Again, Steve Stager is up at that road closure at 34 and 29. He's back with us live with more. Steve?
Tom, yeah, we've been watching that plume kind of moving up from the fire as you were just talking about, and watching which way the smoke is kind of blowing. And there's no one direction that we've been able to watch during this fire. I'll step out of the way so you can take a better look at that. We're still, by the way, waiting on Carolyn's mom and dad. They've now been put on notice by Carolyn on TV that they better be out here in 15 minutes. I haven't checked the clock in a minute to make sure that they're coming down, but that's our vantage point of the fire right now. You can see that the two there's whiter smoke on one side and darker smoke on the other side. And every now and then we'll see a flare up of pretty dark smoke, which leads us to believe that something is burning, whether that's just thicker fuel up there or if it's something else. We're not quite sure right now just because we don't have a great view of this. But like Cora is talking about, the good news is we haven't felt the kind of wind that you feel on really awful fire days today. We do see the dry brush. Like if you can even kind of look down here in this gully where we posted up, you can see there's nothing here. I mean, there's a little bit of green, but not much. And the hay kind of gives you an idea just how dry the conditions are up here. And again, from what we've heard, this is a relatively rugged area where firefighters are trying to get up there right now and get a start on this fire. But there are lots of crews here. We have seen Larimer County Sheriff's deputies. We've seen Boulder County Sheriff's deputies since we've been here, all making their way through, making sure that the people who are in here are getting out. In fact, we've seen a few kind of convoys of people with a Larimer County Sheriff's deputy make their way this way, out of harm's way on US 34, headed eastbound back outside of the canyon here. You hear some sirens off in the distance, and we've also seen what's interesting. They are letting horse trailers in here. I think it's so folks can kind of pick up their animals, but here comes an unmarked police vehicle making its way back toward Highway 34. I think a lot of cases, Tom, like we were just talking about, you've got the different notification tools that you can use. There are those opt-in alerts, which is what Carolyn said that her dad got to telling him to get out. You've also have oftentimes the most effective way, firefighters will tell you, is just a knock on the door from a sheriff's deputy to tell them to get out. I'm going to step out of the way as more police cruisers make their way out here. There's the Larimer County Sheriff. We've seen them make a couple of spins here, going out and heading right back in, just trying to make sure everybody's out of harm's way. You cannot get westbound down US 34 right now. That is blocked off unless you have special permission from the Colorado State Patrol. And we'll keep an eye on that here. I have a feeling that road's not going to open anytime soon. So Tom, the scene here, a lot of people are nervous looking at that. It's an imposing image, but the good news is maybe 15, 20 minutes has tended to go straight side, which is very, very good news for firefighters. But that relative humidity number not Not good news.
No, not good news at all. We'll take all the good news we can get. Steve, thanks very much. We're going to take one more look at Sky 9, but they are going to be heading out of the area now. That number down at the bottom right of your screen tells a big story too, 95 degrees. That's part of the equation for these fires and how quickly they can get started and get going. But it also makes it difficult for helicopters to operate. So Sky 9 is going to head back to the barn. But the pictures it's been delivering us today certainly are a big piece of what people are seeing in northern Colorado, the size and scope of a wildfire. And we certainly have been talking about the specter of wildfires as we've been talking about the lack of rain we've been haven't seen in several months now throughout much of the area. And we had Jerry Barger from Berthoud on with us a little bit earlier, and he mentioned that they just hadn't seen any rain up there. And everything begins to dry out. And when you have had rain, you know, over the past 12 months or so, we saw the drought monitor was in very good shape, but that also feeds the trees and the grasses to grow. And then when they dry out, they become very active fuel in situations like this. Some of the views we have seen from the helicopter indicate that the fire is moving. It seems to be spreading in different ways instead of just moving inexorably in one direction. Some of those burning tops of trees and stuff that get blown by the wind then start other fires a little bit further down the road there, like you can see how it's stretching out there to the right. But it is a signal. It's a signal of what's been happening in our state this year, especially around the Front Range. And we shall see how this fire plays out. We've seen too many of them. One is too many, and this is another one. Again, from Bow Mountain, the view that people all around the Front Range have of this fire. It's a much closer look when you're in Loveland, but from miles away, you can see this plume, and it certainly sends a chill up your back. Some of the people who saw this fire burning have been sharing photos with us, and they too tell the story of how this began and how suddenly it became a good-sized wildfire that has potential to grow even larger. Up there, it's the Alexander Mountain Fire. At this point, still being measured at 247 acres in size to the west of Loveland, I should say. The Larimer County Sheriff has issued those mandatory evacuations we showed you a little bit earlier, but this is a story that's going to play out certainly through the rest of this day and likely for days to come. But we'll be watching this one. If you are looking for someone who's had to evacuate, or if you yourself has to evacuate, there are some places you can go already set up. The Namaquah Elementary School, the Estes Park Events Complex, and animals and ranch animals can go to the 5290 Arena Circle. Is a place you can take them as well. Again, we're watching some of this spread, and we tend to think of fires as climbing, but they also travel downhill in that those burning trees fall and roll and start new fires as they tumble downhill. This is, as Steve's been alluding to, pretty difficult terrain. The ground crews are going to certainly have a tough time getting to where they be, to where the fire is, I should say. Sky 9 has been able to get a look at several helicopters in the area now. 4 of them are already starting to help, and at least one more is on the way as well. But you can see how active, how hot this fire is burning and continuing to take trees. It's very open land, but as we know, fires move rapidly and they move in whatever direction they want to go, whatever direction the weather takes them. So let's find out a little bit more about what the weather is doing right now. Corey Reppenhagen back with us with the Weather Impact Team. Corey?
Yeah, you know, and we're really able to gather quite a bit of information from the visuals being provided by the helicopter. You can really just see the plumes of smoke. They're kind of being pushed a little bit towards the west again. So that means that the winds that are upslope from the Front Range are a little bit stronger than the winds that are countering from the west. And like I mentioned, these winds are converging right on the base of the foothills right now. And so that's why you'll see the shifting winds. And another thing you'll notice is with the winds not being too strong, that smoke plume is going very high and almost straight vertical before it encounters that stronger winds higher in the atmosphere, and that's when it gets pushed out towards the west. So air quality is of course one of those concerns, that because when we have wildfires on the Front Range like this, it becomes everybody's problem, and that is probably what's going to happen with this. We do have an air quality alert for ozone pollution and out-of-state wildfire smoke already in place, but the Colorado Department of Health has put in a special smoke alert here for Larimer County, including Fort Collins and Loveland. The good news is that smoke, like I said, is going straight up, and then it's not until it's really high vertically that it gets pushed over. But eventually that air will start to filter down, and all of this smoke, there's a lot of smoke. I mean, look at the smoke coming from these fire. That is going to eventually start to settle, and that will likely happen in the evening and nighttime hours. So we'll have to watch and see how that smoke problem evolves, but the health department's already anticipating Larimer County being involved in some long-term and maybe greater. At this point, it's expected to stay in the unhealthy for sensitive groups category, but it can quickly rise, as we've seen, when that smoke starts to settle, where we can get into unhealthy for everyone. So that's what we'll have to monitor. And here is the radar. So we put the special filter on this where we can see only the very finest particles. And this is the last few hours of this smoke. And this right here is the smoke plume that's coming out of this fire. You can see the plume is being picked up by radar coming over right in between Loveland and Fort Collins. And if you can kind of spot the biggest part of the fire here, see it blip there in yellow? That was about right after noon. That fire really exploded and put out some really thick smoke and some heavy debris there that the radar can detect. So in general, even though the winds down low are riding up the slope and kind of pushing the fire up a little bit, the smoke is encountering the westerly winds and is going to be blown out to out over the Front Range. And like I said, here's the forecast for that. The good news is these numbers are not huge. These 10 to 20, maybe 25 mile per hour gusts, that's something that they can deal with and actually put an aggressive fight on this fire. If it gets any bigger, once it starts to get in that 50 mile per hour range, which it could be happening locally because the fire can create its own weather, but in general, the overall conditions here with the winds are good news, and you can kind of see how the winds kind of come upslope in the afternoon here, countering the westerly winds. And that is happening right at the base of the foothills, so right where that fire is being fought. And then we'll see that this smoke is going to be pushed outward, because here's the smoke forecast. This model has not run recently enough to include the newest fire, but we have all this smoke from out of state that's going to be added to now what is local smoke from the Alexander fire.
Corey, thanks very much. We want to get out to one of the evacuation sites. This is at Namakwa Elementary School, and that's where our Kevin Vaughn is. And Kevin, have we seen people already starting to either go there to evacuate or look for people that they might anticipate evacuating?
Yeah, Tom, we talked to some folks inside. There's a handful of people that have already come here to get away from this fire. They're expecting more as the day wears on. There are a few cars in the parking lot, and we're basically waiting to see how many people end up here by the end of the day. We don't know quite what the capacity is here at this point. I can tell you, as we drove up from Denver, we could see the plume from this fire, as soon as we were north of downtown, and see that smoke trail that Corey Reppenhagen was just talking about, going very high into the air and then trailing to the east for what looked like a great distance.
Those things, you prepare for these fires, and sadly people have to be ready, and this elementary school in Namakwa there has to be ready to be this place for people to go. And when people get there, there'll be organization that maybe can help make sure that people are connected and they know who's there and who's, if anyone's missing.
Yeah, and I can tell you from past experience that of covering other wildfires. A lot of people whose homes are in the sort of the danger zone stay close to home as long as they can to try to keep an eye on what's happening around where they live. So I would anticipate that the surge in people coming here will be later in the day, assuming this fire is not under control and people can return home, when it's time to start thinking about finding a place to sleep, finding a meal, that kind of thing.
Familiar with the area, ballpark it if you would. How far are you from what would you call the fire itself?
I would say we are maybe 5 miles from the fire. We're sort of on the southwest side of Loveland, just 8 or 10 blocks south of US 34, which of course runs right up into Big Thompson Canyon to the west here. Signs all the way along announcing that Highway 34 is closed when you get up closer to the canyon. So we cannot really see the smoke plume right now because we're in front of the school. But we, you know, we saw it for quite a while coming up here.
It's one of those things too, because once you're in Loveland, of course, cell service information is so important, and you have cell service, but many times in these remote areas, you're not going to get to see those bars on your phone that allow you to stay in touch, to know what's going on, or to let people know where you are. Always a difficult thing, and we talk about the value of real, hard, solid information on days like this, Kevin.
Absolutely, and you know, I lived in Larimer County for about 8 years earlier in my career, spent a lot of time up in these mountains, and I can tell you there are a lot of places up there where cell service is not great or non-existent.
Well, hopefully the word is out and people know which way to go and how to get out of there. Kevin, thanks for joining us. We'll get back to you with more there at Namaqua Elementary School there in Loveland. And we've also been looking at some of this video of some of these drops, the red retardant being dropped by aircraft as they try to manage the movement of the fire as best they can. Again, this is the Alexander Mountain Fire, just under 250 acres, at least is at last estimated by the Forest Service, and it is burning west of Loveland. There are mandatory evacuations and there are road closures. There's a lot that people in that area need to know, and certainly a lot of people know about it because, as Kevin said, you don't have to be too far north out of Denver before you see that smoke plume, and you can see it all the way up and down the Front Range as well. So these are, again, some of the views we get from different parts of the Front Range. This, again, a CDOT camera along I-25 near US 34 in Loveland, shooting to the horizon to the west. And the plume itself seems to be drifting a little bit, but still a very vertical plume at this point, which is a good sign if there are any. So we want to talk about these mandatory evacuations put in by the Larimer County Sheriff's Office. There's the fire center there, the Alexander Mountain Fire, just west of the city of Loveland. But as far as the evacuation areas, I think there's an updated map that includes areas a little further south in the red. The red is the mandatory evacuation, because I think that new map that they put out now goes all the way down to Pole Hill in the southwest corner. The Storm Mountain would be the top left, and then the yellow areas over there were voluntary evacuation, meaning prepare to evacuate. And again, where you saw Kevin, that is one of the evacuation sites. If you need to evacuate or find someone who you think has evacuated, Namaqua Elementary School, the Estes Park Events Complex, and large animals are going over as well to take care of them. We are going to continue to follow this, of course, for you right here on 9 News, and we will continue to bring the latest as it comes in. So keep it right here. You can also get information, of course, on the 9 News app and at 9news.com.